What is up, my Canes family? Welcome back to the show. Welcome back to another edition of Cafecito and Canes, late night edition. Loaded up on some cafecito here, all caffeined up, ready to go. Something happened earlier this week. The schedule was released. Now that the ACC released their conference schedule Monday evening, we now know the Canes' entire 2023 schedule because we already knew some of the non-conference games we'd play on the front end. So, what do you say we dive right into it, shall we? So one of the first things that jumped out at me was the amount of weeknight games we play. Interesting. First of all, we start the season against Miami of Ohio, which a lot of us already knew that was known for a bit. But we started on September 1st, Friday night at the Rock. Now, I don't know how you guys feel about that. I think it's pretty cool. I love it. I think it's a little something different. The noon kickoffs the first week of September. I mean, I've said it before, early September in Miami, it might as well be July. It is 100,000 degrees outside. And that game, in all likelihood, would have been at a noon kickoff if they didn't make it a Friday night game. And yeah, would have been great for home field advantage with the heat. But I mean, that really cuts into the crowd. It really does. So I really like the Friday night start. I'm already excited about it, to be honest with you. I'm not as big of a fan of Thursday night games because, it's a work night. Usually those don't get great crowds, even if maybe if it's like a Virginia Tech game, if, there's something on the line division standings wise. But even then, typically a Thursday night game at Hard Rock does not draw very well. A lot of busy working professionals in Miami to get down to the stadium for a 7:30 kickoff on a weeknight where you have work the next day. It is rough. The diehards do it. I've done it a few times, but I love the Friday night game. Back in 2013, we opened the season against FAU on a Friday night, and there was a lot of hype going into that season. That was Stephen Morris and Duke Johnson, Denzel Perriman. That team. That's the year that they started 7-0 and they beat Florida. That first game against FAU was a blast, dude. That was such a fun atmosphere. I looked up the crowd for that game. It was north of 50,000. So, not a sellout, it's FAU, but that was, you can't duplicate the Friday Night Lights atmosphere. I've always been a big fan of that. I know it's reserved mainly for the high school game, but I just love it for college. Every once in a while, it's a nice change, So the tailgate is going to be awesome because, again, it's a Friday night. Most people don't work the next day. Kicks off the weekend, kicks off the season. Full slate of games for the rest of the weekend because I believe that's Memorial or Labor Day weekend, which usually kicks off the season. So already looking forward to that. And again, looking forward to going to a home opener that's not 10,000 degrees outside. So that's going to be fun. Another game I remember a season kicking off on a Friday night was back in 2004. It wasn't supposed to kick off on a Friday night. It was that overtime game against FSU where Frank Gore scored the winning touchdown. That was originally, if you remember, it was supposed to be a Labor Day game earlier in the week. It was supposed to kick off. It was supposed to be September 6th. Ended up being pushed back to September 10th that Friday because of a hurricane that blew through Miami. I thought it was, kind of a blessing to reschedule. I thought it ended up being even better because, again, I was in high school at the time. I got to, Dad picked me up and had a change of clothes for me waiting in the car, and we went straight to the stadium, started tailgating. It was, again, it was a blast. So good memories. Looking forward to that first one. As for the game itself, well, Miami of Ohio had the number 113 ranked offense in the nation last year. They weren't very good. Granted, we were not very good either, but their offense was even worse. And I don't see another Middle Tennessee situation happening next year. Look, with the personnel changes, the way that we flipped the roster and all these new fresh players coming in, TVD should be coming back healthy, beefed up O-line, healthy running game, hopefully just a healthy team all around. I see us, doing just fine in that game. I see that being a victor. I'm not giving a season prediction, but for these first few games, I don't see anything going wrong in that first game. I will be shocked if anything goes wrong. So I think we start the season 1-0 in a fun Friday night atmosphere. Then week 2 is going to be the big one. Texas A&M, September 9th. I don't know if it's going to be a prime time or a 3:30 game. In all likelihood, it'll probably be an evening game. So first two home games at night. Again, I kind of like it because it's hot as hell at that time, and I'd rather just play that game in prime time. Have the nation watching us. Maybe we get a little revenge and pull off that victory. If you go back through the last decade and a half or so, anytime, even if in these years of struggle that we've had, anytime we have a big non-conference home and home series, typically we lose the road game, but we win the home game. I brought up Florida a little while ago. Florida, we lose in 08 up in Gainesville to Tim Tebow and all those guys. Come back home to 2013, we end up beating them. Oklahoma, we get spanked up in Norman, Oklahoma. We come back home 2 years later in 09. We pull off the upset. Ohio State, that's another one. We go up to Columbus, Ohio, 2010. They beat us. I think we lost by like 12. We were kind of in the game for a while, but they beat us. And then the following year, 2011, second game of the season, we kind of put a whooping on them. That game, I think we ended up winning like 21-6, 27-6, something like that. Their offense couldn't move the ball against us. So all I'm saying is typically we fare much better at home in these home and home non-conference games in recent memory. But, it's a coin flip. Anything could happen in that game. So I don't know what Texas A&M is going to do this offseason to kind of retool and flip their roster. Jimbo Fisher, obviously, is a fantastic coach, great offensive mind. He is usually ready to play Miami. He's only lost to us once, I think, that Darrell Langham game up in Tallahassee. So, it's going to be a challenge either way. Then week 3, you got Bethune-Cookman. In all likelihood, going to be a day game. That's fine. I think that Bethune-Cookman game is kind of placed perfectly in the schedule. Here's why. Whether we win or lose the A&M game week 2, we're going to come out of that game either 1-1 or 2-0. We're going to be either devastated because in all likelihood we lose a close one because I don't see that game being a blowout either way, really. Either we lose a close heartbreaker and we're devastated, or we pull off the win, not shocking the world or anything, but we pull off probably a pretty big win at that time and, kind of making a statement to the nation. And either way, emotions are going to be high is what I'm trying to say. So I think that Bethune-Cookman game is perfect right after that Texas A&M game to kind of settle us down, recalibrate us. And also it's midweek. It's on September 14th. I don't know if you caught that. That one is on a Thursday night, if I'm not mistaken. So, two of our first 3 games are midweek. Again, not a huge fan of the Thursday. Well, actually, you know what? I got to correct myself. It's not going to be a day game. That's going to be a night game since it's Thursday. Yeah. Let me correct myself there. So that'll be a Thursday night game. I don't think we've ever played Bethune in a night game before. But, again, that should be the perfect game to kind of get us back down to earth, get a relatively easy win. And, again, worst case will be 2-1, kind of get us back in rhythm and get us prepared to go on the road to Temple. Now, Temple, I looked them up. They've been 3-9, I think, the past 3 seasons. They are currently coached by Stan Drayton. And that last year was his first season. They were ranked 106th offensively. So two of our first 4 games, Bethune, that's obviously a win. No disrespect to them, but I mean, come on, it is. That game, 2 of our first 4 games are going to be against opponents that had an even worse offense than we did. Okay, so again, I said it before, I don't see another Middle Tennessee debacle happening in those first few games. So, yeah, I'm going to say it. I know people probably don't want me to say it, but I'm going to say it. Worst case, it should be 3-1 coming out of those first 4. Best case, 4-0. And what's great is that'll give us momentum. It'll give us confidence, and it'll give us a bye week going into the ACC schedule because we play that game against Temple September 23rd. We're off September 30th, and then October 7th, come right back home to play Georgia Tech to kick off the ACC schedule. Again, kind of a perfect game to kick off the ACC schedule because you have that extra week to prepare. Mario historically is good, really good coming out of bye weeks. This past season aside, he was 6-0 in his career as a head coach coming out of bye weeks. So, that should be a fun one. It should be a good atmosphere because, again, we'll be going into it with a winning record, kind of, hopefully in a good rhythm offensively. Hopefully we'll be clicking. We'll be adjusted to our new offensive coordinator. Hopefully everyone will be healthy, or for the most part. So I think we'll be in a much better situation going into the conference schedule. Again, I am not predicting any 10-win seasons here or anything. This is going to be a rebuild that's going to be on the longer side. But I will say this, we're going to be much improved in 2023. I think that, falling flat on our faces in that Middle Tennessee game kind of wrecked our confidence as a team. And that's when, maybe some finger pointing started and, all that stuff, all the locker room, all the stuff in the locker room started. Might have even been before that, but that just really poured gasoline on the fire. And more injuries happened, and then the season was just downhill from there. But I don't see that happening this time. After Georgia Tech, you got a nice, really tough stretch against North Carolina on the road, and then you come back and play the Clemson Tigers. You got a second home game in a row against the Virginia Cavaliers right after Clemson. That's, again, Virginia, that's going to be a key game where let's see if we can get our footing back. They're a D1 team. It's not like playing Bethune-Cookman where you can just kind of, relax and settle back down. Virginia's going to be looking for some revenge, and they're probably going to be a little bit improved from that team last year. Now, you saw that they took a step back after losing Bronco Mendenhall as their coach. So I'm not sure how good they're going to be, but let's see. They're going to be probably one of those sneaky opponents. They always play us tough. So we got to be ready to play coming out of that Clemson game, whether we pull off a major upset or lose that game. Then on the road against NC State, then on the road against Florida State, back home against Louisville, and on the road against Boston College. In all likelihood, that's going to be their annual red bandana game, because I would imagine they're probably going to save that game for Miami any chance they get. So, really tough stretch. I mean, honestly, the whole second half of the season, from North Carolina all the way to the final game of the year against Boston College, that's going to be tough, because starting with North Carolina, you're kind of backloading the season with all those road games. You got 1, 2, 3, 4 road games out of your final 7 games. And the 3 home games, Louisville, Clemson, and Virginia. I mean, Virginia should be a victory. We'll see. But Louisville's going to be much tougher than they were last year, and Clemson's Clemson. So, let's see what happens. It's, I'm excited for, I know it's only it's February 1st now. Wow. Year's already flying. It's going to be here before we know it. I'm already getting kind of juiced up looking at it, man. Again, not predicting any playoff appearances. I'm not predicting an ACC championship. All I'm saying is I think we're going to see a much better team on the field this time. And once that ACC schedule gets started, it's going to be kind of unpredictable. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if, maybe we have a bad loss against Georgia Tech, but maybe we pull off an upset against North Carolina on the road. I mean, that would be massive. I mean, that would feel amazing if we can finally get a win against Mac Brown, especially on the road. In their house. I've been to actually that stadium. I think is it Keenan Stadium at UNC. I went for a road game up there in 2017. It's a beautiful campus, really nice people, great town, but I would love to get a victory up there. But anyway, that's it for me. That's just an early look at 2023 schedule. The spring game was announced at Drive Pink Stadium in Fort Lauderdale, just like it was last year, but it's going to be, again, a Friday night game. Man, they're really into the Friday night lights here. Yeah, so that should also be a fun one. I'm going to try to make it out there for that spring game. That should be a good one. Anyways, that's it for me. Please follow, like, share, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. I'll be dropping more content soon. As always, it's all about that you. Have a good night. Go Canes.